Do you have questions about your health? Do you need to find out what's keeping you from feeling your absolute best? If so, your intuition has guided you to the right place. I am Dr. Charlize, and welcome to the Art of Healing podcast community. In this podcast, we explore all topics in health and wellness, from Reiki to functional medicine, energy medicine, chakras, and meditation. Join me every week for fresh new episodes that highlight healers, various healing modalities, and use this as your opportunity to find what healing works best for you. If you want to learn more about me, simply Google at Dr. Charlize. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome back to the Art of Healing podcast. This is Dr. Charlize. And for today's episode, I'm going to be joined by two special guests. I would like to introduce Rocio, Aquino, and Angel Orengo. They are co-authors of The Orchid, and they are the founders of The Highest Good. You can find their book and information about them at the orchidbook.com. And I will make sure to put that in the show notes to find that. Rocio and Angel are co-founders for The Highest Good, which is a company dedicated to creating transformative narratives that inspire personal growth and empowerment. Together, they blend their vast professional and global experiences to design projects that foster conscious leadership and a more authentic way of living. Rocio, born in Mexico City, now based in Los Angeles, has built a distinguished career in media, advertising, sales, and has worked with renowned companies such as Time Magazine, TV Azteca, Nickelodeon, Sony Pictures Entertainment, and A&E Mundo. Her career and life journey have taken her to the cities like Miami, Hong Kong, and London, shaping her talent for connecting people, ideas, and opportunities. Angel, originally from Puerto Rico and a graduate of Cornell University, had a successful career at Sony Pictures Entertainment, where he led content distribution teams across Latin America, Asia Pacific, and Europe. With experience spanning over 65 countries, Angel has merged his corporate leadership with a profound journey of self-discovery and purpose. Both firmly rooted in business and spirituality. Their debut work is The Orchid, The Secret Code of the Modern Goddess. And during our interview, we'll have a chance to discuss this book. I got to read a chapter of it, and I'm waiting for my copy to finish reading, and it is quite inspirational. So enjoy. Welcome, Art of Healing podcast listeners. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. I have two special guests who have co-authored a book that I have started reading and really found that it was just the salve that my soul was needing right now. So I can't wait to share more about their book, especially once I'm finished reading it. But the authors are Rocio Aquino and Angel Orengo, and they are the authors of The Orchid, and they are also the founders of The Highest Good. These are two very successful executives who have taken their careers and their worldly experience and modeled it into something that's literally for the greater good of the planet. So today, I'm going to be asking them quite a few questions. I really want their advice on how we operate spiritually within a corporate world, because that's fascinating. I'd like to know more about the secret code if they'll share it with us, of course. We want to know more about the book. So, Angel, Rocio, it is so nice to meet both of you. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us. Really is a pleasure. So
Yes, thank you for having us here. We are delighted to be here with you, Charlize.
So let's answer. How do you do the corporate world with the spiritual part? How we do it?
Well,
How
jumping right into it, really, I think one of the best ways that I've found is to no longer divide myself into different parts. I read in a book that one of the reasons why the corporate world became so quite different was that after World War II, when all these officers started to look for jobs, they entered corporations. And so they brought into companies what was sort of a military style of directing, of behaving, of managing. And so that's where it got started. And as one would expect, a soldier needs to put aside their emotions in order to do what they need to do. And so companies started behaving that way. And what I've realized is that, and I don't know how many of us, the people listening and watching, have been in that situation in which somewhere or another a boss has said, well, leave the personal stuff at home, right? And
Mhm,
at the end,
mhm,
we're one person, we're one individual. We do not get to divide ourselves. We're carrying with our thoughts, with our traumas, with our issues with us wherever we go. And so, one of the things that, and ways that I found is really to tackle them on. They're with me, they are who I am. And the things that we're going to be speaking about, in which we speak about in the book, are designed for human behavior, not necessarily for behavior at home or at work or with your kids or with your parents, but really everywhere.
mhm,
And so that's what I would say. Try to be yourself and be yourself wherever you are, even at work.
I
mm,
want to add something
mhm,
that, let me put you examples how we do it.
mhm,
So before we're going to do a meeting, normally we center ourselves with the person who is we going to do the meeting. So before we sit down, and in the past, we come to a meeting and it's like a boom, 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 let's do the meeting. And now it's like you arrive to the meeting and it's, let's take a minute to breathe and to center ourselves and to feel our body.
mm,
And
mhm,
only doing that feels like you were to the spa and you brought all your good energy with you, and your presence, your attitude, you have a different intention.
mhm,
So
mhm,
that's one example that is really quick, that you bring spirituality, but it's not spirituality, it's really practical tools to the day-to-day life. So that's the most important, how you really begin to conduct yourself in a way that is you are in alignment between your thoughts, your words, your feelings, and your actions, and begin to permeate that in your real world.
mhm. So I actually did not know that the corporate culture, I guess that most of us have to work in, had a military rooting. I didn't actually know that because I work in a corporation too, so yeah, I feel it exactly what you said. It definitely feels like that, sort of get in line. But that's so good to know that we can show up as ourselves, understand maybe we need to work in this system, but we as a whole human can show up there. And I love that advice about centering, setting an attention. I need that reminder all the time because I agree. Once I do that, everything goes better. But when you let,
Yes.
timelines, deadlines, and you rush and get started up and it's just kind of like, and that's where the conflict starts up. So that's wonderful advice. I love that advice.
Thank
So,
you.
maybe can you introduce us to the book? Because I started reading it, and like all really good books, once I started the first two sentences, I was yanked in. So, readers, I'm waiting for my hard copies because once I read the first chapter, I was like, "Oh no, what's the rest?" But can you all introduce the
Ay,
book to us?
Charlize,
Yes.
Charlize is, has been is an act of love what we did. Is really to put there for the reader to experience themselves in a beautiful story about success, about concord, about really changing your perspective about life and where you are. And when you read the story, because it's a beautiful story of 5 women who goes to this amazing spa school retreat, and they encounter with so many teachers, healers, and wisdom about practical wisdom that you can apply. So they go there, they are tired, they have a lot of challenge. And at that point, you begin to see how they transform themselves little by little with some amazing wisdom.
So what you read, Charlize, was obviously the story of Mary, who's the founder of the place.
Mhm,
And she herself goes around the world, learns wisdom from all corners of the world because the wisdom is spread throughout all of humanity, no?
mhm,
And she comes back and she says, how do I share this with other women?
mhm,
So what Rocio just described is what she did. 20 years later, we find her. She's found this amazing place where every week she receives 30 women.
mhm,
We're in this particular book, we're going to follow 5 of them, and they're going to throughout 7 days. So it's set up almost like a spa, like a 5-star hotel, nested in the woods, in just beautiful piece of land and nature. And
uh-huh,
there they're going to come across 5 lessons: awareness, gratitude, forgiveness, acceptance, and intention. And
mhm,
so the goal is that as they go through that process, little by little, they're shedding pain, tears, hurt, trauma. And as they're doing that, they're getting to the core of the message,
mhm,
which is inside of you. The only thing that exists is love. In your true nature,
mhm,
our truest sense, when we're born and you look at a child, at a baby, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're perfect, they're beautiful, there's nothing wrong with them. That is still true for all of us today,
mhm,
independently of what we're doing, how we're acting, how we're behaving.
mhm,
And so the goal of the book is to bring us back to that truth,
mhm,
and through it, allow us to then find our inner self, our inner love, because our goal is that everybody who feels that, who comes in contact with that, can then become the best version of themselves that they can be. And that could be doctor, lawyers, mothers, fathers, educators, whatever. Imagine if we walked in a world in which everybody was in tune with themselves and their loving nature. That's what the novel is about.
So what really it's just hooked me right away when I first started reading was this person, Mary, was doing everything correct. She was doing everything perfectly, and her life was falling in line. So as I'm reading, I just like that part. I was like, "Right, it's great. Life's going great for her. This is wonderful." And then, of course, there's surprises that come along the way. It's like, "Whoa!" But yeah, I really and just a plug for the. I do keep a reading list of books that once I've read, I love to share with my community. So for listeners, I'm going to update my reading list so I can make sure to get the Orchid on there. And so you'll know where to get your copy as well. Because this is definitely the kind of novel that I think so many of us need right now. Kind of novel that I wouldn't have even known to look for. So this really needs, I'm so happy you all are marketing and getting this out there. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charlize. Really, when I was looking in my personal transformation, somebody told me, read The Secret or read this book. And at one point I was reading it and they tell you about the law of attraction or another one. So I didn't understand really deep,
Mhm,
in profound way, how important is to understand your limiting beliefs and how you can transform them. So in the novel, we put like a very clear what is different limiting beliefs that we all carry. And in the moment that you begin to see it, you can do a transformation. But you know what I was looking, and for that reason we did this book in this way, is to put examples out there for people to get inspired and how they can change their lives. For us, took us a master degree, 200 books to read, and to really understand how you can transform pain, sadness, to something that, okay, I can really, instead of feeling out of balance, I can find harmony in my body, in my past, make peace with myself.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go in this profound, is so personal, is so beautiful to do that. They've been telling us is difficult, is not achievable, is a lie. Is no, it's possible to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very challenge of bringing, and now the difference that I see in myself and all the ripple effect that you create when you feel the best version of yourself every minute doesn't stop. So that's why it's important to read the novel and to really go inside and understand it's not a competition. We are not alone. We can work together. We can really create bridges.
Wonderful. That actually that leads me, Rocio, to the next question I was going to ask for those of us that are feeling stuck right now. And so open disclosure, before you two beautiful spirits came on this podcast, I had another podcast guest that did not bring the energy I anticipated. Whole separate
Mhm.
story, my failure to prepare. So this person brought in a completely different energy. And podcasts are big energy spreaders. So left me somewhat of panic, like, oh, how do I clean this up? But what advice would you two give for those of us right now? I'm even asking for myself personally, if I'm feeling a little stuck, a little overwhelmed from the knowledge both of you carry from the novel. What advice would you offer that we could mindset anything that we could do right now for those of us that are feeling like, stuck? That corporate icky energy you all were talking about. That you look out, what could we do to get through the weekend, according to you two?
I love that. Well, look, I'll give you one, and this is almost an automatic action that I do now. I now understand that as we're navigating our daily lives, it's almost like we're tuning in to different radio networks or radio stations, right? And so if you change the channel, you can tune into a type of music, news, et cetera, et cetera. The most important thing, and this is why awareness is one of our first lessons, is where am I tuning into? What am I tuning into? Oh, I'm sad. Oh, I get it. Or I'm angry, or I'm in despair, or I don't feel abundant. Whatever it is, whatever those words are for you, find what they are, because awareness, when you see something, then you can actually do something about it. Right? That's the first rule of being able to change something, is to identify it and say, you know that? I don't like it. Or it doesn't have to be I don't like it. It could be I don't want to be in it for too long.
Yes.
So in my case, one of the tools that I use is immediately go to the next lesson, which is gratitude. And in the book, we explain it, because in the book, it's meant to give exercises. But in my case, what is to go into gratitude? It's literally to, kind of center yourself, take a deep breath, etc., and look around you. And sometimes is your immediate space, but it may be a little bit further than that, and start giving thanks for the things that you have. Thanks for the things that you have.
Mhm.
And it doesn't really need to be something profound. Sometimes we go into, oh, I really give thanks for my mom and dad. And those things are important, right? As well. But it might be just as I give thanks for the cup in my hand with this warm tea. I give thanks for the fact that I was able to take a warm shower this morning. It's important to get
My
into
body,
my
my
body,
body, my lungs, my heart,
my
the
blood.
smile that I have in this moment, the opportunity to create
Yeah.
something different right now
Mm,
is you, we control our minds and we can change the the
That's it.
channel.
yes.
That's the important thing, that you go from sadness to gratitude just because you're entering into a state of gratitude. Now, it's almost works in tandem, right? You're giving thanks, therefore very soon you're going to follow with a energy of gratitude, and where the energy of gratitude resides,
Mhm,
sadness cannot exist. And so all of a sudden you're making space and you're enhancing and making this bubble bigger,
mhm,
and you're shifting the channel. So it's about shifting the channel and being aware that it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be depressed,
mhm.
but be aware that you are. And if you want to change it, there are ways to do that. So that's one way in which I do it.
Yes, and another way that I really love to do to change, I'm aware right now that the situation globally. So
Mhm,
what I've been learning is I contribute more if I stay in grace, in love, in good attitude, in positive ways, to really to be more of a practical. It's like I cannot save the world right now, but I'm gonna do a small act of kindness
mm,
and make a connection, a deep connection that I'm gonna feel better. So all these things, the small things count a lot.
mm,
So
mhm.
is how I can really don't put attention to the the noise.
Yes.
So is
Yeah.
instead of focus myself in the noise, I focus myself in the beauty, in the glass almost full, because I used to see the glass always empty, and I know already that discourse, and it's no, no, no. I'm better when I focus myself in possibilities and see, okay, what is gonna be my intention right now? I'm gonna have fun. I'm
Yes.
gonna allow myself to enjoy this moment. So it's how I do it in more practical ways.
Change the channel. And
Change
the
the
channel
channel.
can be changed in many multiple ways. Those are the ones, or two of the ones that work for us. And the question for the listener is, what works for you? We've known people that is they go running. When they run, they lose themselves in this world,
Mhm,
and that shifts them. Other people swim, other people dance, some
mhm,
people take a walk.
mhm.
Some people love their cat so much that when they are with their cat or their dog, their life changes.
Uh-huh.
Find what are those things that help you change the channel from where you are to where you want to be.
Mm, mm. So that real life workshop you all just provided for, and I hope listeners, you all took something, I took something very profound from it, because before I met you too, I was carrying some of that stress and worry, and probably was
Mm.
thinking, oh, this podcast channel. I was actually thinking that word, the channel. You open the door, you don't know what comes in. It's typically been blessings and blessings. The podcast has been a channel for just wide open blessings. And so I was confronting that feeling of something that didn't align with me, and
Mm.
realizing it's clear this is a challenge. But as you two were speaking, the blessing was that with the door open, I met Angel, I met Rocio. I get to read the orchid. I get to experience all of this, and I didn't do anything. It just landed in my lap. So there's a blessing. I mean, it's, these wonderful souls wander in. So there's a blessing. So thank you so much. And listeners, I hope as you listen to that teaching, for you it translated. I'm almost certain it will as you listen to this podcast, because it definitely did for me. That was very heart-centered teaching. So thank you two so much. So my next question, I think I want to ask you all about your travels because you're, okay, if I'm understanding this, you've traveled to over 65 countries, and the knowledge you're imparting in the book is based on your own travels and learnings. Um, I don't know. Is it possible to summarize where all you've been and what all you've learned and how these different cultures have shaped your teachings now? That might be too big a question, but is it possible to summarize that?
You know, at one point, remember, every soul has a different path.
Mhm.
And at one point, Angel and I'm from Mexico,
Mhm.
he is from Puerto Rico,
Okay.
and we met in Mexico and then we moved to Miami. We stayed there for 7 years. Angel was overseeing all the sales of content for Latin America. So he needs to travel all the way to Latin America to sell content for Sony Pictures. After that, we moved to Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong, he was overseeing the sales of content the same.
Mhm.
And their clients were in China, Japan, Korea, New Zealand,
Okay.
and Australia. So imagine how India, how incredible was the opportunity for us to go and see all these cultures. After
Yeah.
being 6 years in Asia, we moved to Europe, to London, when he was overseeing Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And the same, what you begin to see is what makes us human.
Can I just add that as this is happening and as we're experiencing and I'm experiencing business in these regions, the other side was that our family in Rocio has been incredibly curious, which is a trait that we highly recommend for everybody. Be curious.
Mhm.
Be curious about answers, be curious about questions, be curious about where you can find them.
Okay.
And we just we started, not just living in places, but visiting places. And what you realize, even if you ask one question, if you go around the world with one question,
Mhm.
everywhere you go, they answer that question differently
Yes.
because
Ah.
cultures are differently, because
Ah.
attitudes are differently. And that's when the world begins to open up, when
Ah.
you start seeing that, oh, wow, the way people behave about sex in different parts of the world is differently. The way they behave about parenting, marriage, religion, et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera. And
Mhm.
that is the wisdom. And this is exemplified in the book by Mary's travel. Mary went away for 10 years and she
Yes.
started traveling. The 10 years is, in fact, the 10 years that we were traveling around the world and experiencing many of these things. Some were very spiritual in temples,
Yes,
Okay.
beautiful, beautiful to understand different cultures, how they did it different.
and others were simply just about food and people and behavior.
Mhm.
And so we highly recommend for people to become curious about the world because we're very quick as humans, and especially in this day and age in which we're told we're so different. You need to hate these people. And the truth of the matter is that there are people within every cluster that you're like, I'm not sure I can be friends with that group, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
in general, people's nature is love. People nature is family, is friendship, is openness. And that's what we saw. And so that is what we try to transmit through everything that we do. But that's how our traveling around the world influenced what we're doing right now. And certainly the novel that you have in front of you.
So, and especially in the world that we're in right now, it comforts me that both of you who are used to big platforms, big influence, and you know how to use it, and you're using it for the greater good. This guy, I mean, it gives me a lot of comfort. And I know I have friends and family that do worry about the future and they get a little, they want to wring my neck because I'm like, I feel like things are going to be okay. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, I actually really do. And, especially hearing from you two that really have so much influence and power, and you can really sway how people think and feel and look how you're using it. So, see, that's why I feel good about the future. I'll tell my friends
Thank
I'm
you
not
so
just a
much.
goody two shoes. Yes.
Thank you so much, Charlie. You know, at one point, Remember when the people say, be the change that you want to see in the world?
Mm-hmm.
So at one point, believe me, I have the opportunity to do something else, and I don't want to do anything else that helps people to feel better about themselves and who amazing they are, really. So that's why we are putting so much love, effort, understanding, like it's possible. Because if I myself, who I was always thinking that I was not worth it or I was not enough, can really change the point of view, anyone can do it because I'm not special.
Mm.
Everyone is special. So when you begin to have this deep understanding, is everyone is showing us how to do it. So we only need to dare to do it. But these conversations, your podcast is really important to spread the world, the worth for more people to understand, it's possible and we can do it right now.
Yes, yes, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much. Um, so my next question, we did kind of tap on the practice of gratitude and self-love in this message is in the Orchid. Actually, I was going to ask you to walk us through if we could do a ritual, but I believe you already did that because that was very powerful when we did practice that little bit of gratitude and how to spread it and change the channel. So we
May I
did
say
that.
something,
That'll,
Charlize?
yes,
The
yes.
book is written in such a way. Normally, traditional storytelling tells us for the 90% of the time, the drama in someone's life.
Hmm.
But we believe a lot in the wisdom that says life is 10% what happens and 90% how you react. We wanted to write the book in that fashion. So what you're going to find in the novel is that about 10% of the novel is about the drama that happened in people's lives to get them where they are. The 90% of the novel is those wisdoms of truth, is those exercises like the ones that we just did,
Yeah.
embedded throughout every one of its pages, so that you, as the reader, as you're watching and reading the women go through their process and what they're doing, and there's many of those exercises, you can say, oh, well, what if I try it? And they're all so simple, like the ones we did before,
Yes.
that you can try them at home in the privacy of your wherever. So the book is written that way. The book really is a 7-day spa retreat of spiritual transformation for whoever opens themselves up for that possibility. It can also be a wonderful read and entertaining and nothing else. But if you allow yourself, you're going to go to this incredible spa and something is going to shift inside of you.
Oh, that is beautiful. So a 7-day spa retreat, and I am needing that right now. Absolutely.
We all
So
are.
we are all needing that right now. So my maybe last question, but in today's world where we're encouraged to grind, hustle, go to your burnout, go, 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 go. Um, and no matter how you kind of do it, it kind of always goes that way. What advice would you to offer for us to stay grounded every day?
The small rituals helps a lot. So, for example, I love to meditate in the morning,
Okay.
and I listen some meditations that help me to see how precious I am. And when I begin to walk in my day to day, since that perspective, help me. Another small thing that I recommend anyone to do it is, what is your intention when you are doing something? So, for example, if you want to have a cup of tea, and really, if you sleep, quiet your mind and stay focused and really create the ritual of drinking a tea, drinking a cup of a coffee, what you are really doing is creating this harmony in yourselves, and you begin to feel center. And with that, you can begin to enter to the hustle in another way. It's like you have control of yourself.
Mm.
When you have control of yourself, you can react indifferent. You don't give your energy to the person who close when you are driving because you are centered. So I do these small things that help me to stay centered. And when I lose it, for example, I go back to breathe,
Mhm. Mhm.
breathe, and that calm begin to permeate all my body.
I love that.
I love that. I love that. So, Rocio and Angel, can you tell us the best place to find the book? And for listeners on the platform you're listening to the podcast, you will see links to find this. So I know many of us listen to podcasts on the go. I would recommend maybe downloading this podcast, but the show notes will include all of this information. But where is the best place to get a copy of the book?
Thank you, Charlize. The book is available electronically, physically, and in audiobook. And you can find it in pretty much every major platform. Of course, nowadays, Amazon seems to be where people tend to go the most. Audible is another one.
Okay.
Apple, Barnes and Noble. But really, anywhere where books are sold, you can go and say, hey, I want a copy of this book. Can you order it for me? But those are the places where you can find it most rapidly. And of course, you can go to our website, www.theorchidbook.com, and you can find buttons to all of these platforms there as well.
Okay, okay. And for the listeners that want to know more about the two of you, would that be the best place to find you? Would be through the so listeners, again, check your show notes because I'll make sure to include all of that there. And also, listeners, if you sign up for my newsletter, all of this info, this podcast, the YouTube will all be in there very shortly. Any final blessings, words of wisdom the two of you would like to leave for us? I don't know. Do y'all hear that thunder? I live in Tornado Alley, so it sounds scarier than it is. I don't know if y'all heard it.
No, we
But
cannot hear
No,
it.
oh,
nothing.
good. Okay, because it
Nothing.
would scare lightweights. Sorry, but it's like roaring out there. But any final words of wisdom or blessing you'd like to leave us with?
Yes.
Well, I was going to say, I was going to read the dedication of the book,
Yes, 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 yes,
and it's
yes.
really wonderful. And it
Yes.
says, to all who journey through these pages, may you be inspired to rewrite your own narrative and live a life of love, free of limitations, and enriched by the knowledge that you are powerful beyond belief.
Thank you. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Rocio. It was just a blessing to have you here. The universe sent you my way for reasons that are beyond description. Listeners, I'll give more reasons why later, but the timing of this interview, you two just couldn't even imagine. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you two for sharing time with me today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you for the space, for the love, for the frequency. We can feel it, your frequency as well. And it's wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much. All right, listeners, tune in next week for more. Thanks so much. After my wonderful interview with Rocio and Angel, I got my copy of The Orchid. So I am adding some post-interview notes with my review of The Orchid, the secret code of the modern goddess. So, first impressions, it is a beautiful book. I'm sure that Rocio and Angel designed it that way, but when it arrived, it was just beautiful cover, beautiful to handle. In these modern times, paper copies of books are valuable because, our ebooks are convenient and they can come with us wherever we are. So wherever you've got your phone, you can, flip open an app and read it. But this paper copy of the book, just the beautiful appearance, and then it had actually a beautiful freshly dried orchid on it was just such a lovely surprise. So that part I just found absolutely delightful. Before I was able to deeply explore the book, had my first chapter of the book. So I knew going into my full exploration of this novel that it was a work of fiction. But once I was able to actually get the entire book and start to read it, it became very clear to me that this is transformative and intentional fiction. So the story opens with introducing us to a few key characters and starts off with really the origin story of how the orchid comes to be. And it becomes very obvious as you're reading this that each personal story is going to be something that may resonate with your journey spiritually or emotionally or psychologically, or it may resonate with someone that you know and love, or just might be very interesting. But the characters were very intentionally created to tell us and to teach us something about ourselves. The story began to pull me in very rapidly. However, I noticed that we were going to be following guidelines or a lesson plan almost. So I decided to read the book with, well, what I hoped would be the same intention that the book was written in, was chapter by chapter, absorb it, reflect on it, and then go on to the next. If you purchase the paper copy of the book, it's going to contain some resources that you can actually follow along, because once the stage is set or the story is set, then you get to follow into the journey of the orchid. What happens when the ladies arrive at this healing center, and then you as a reader can also take the journey with them. And so, and forgive me, I'm not a book editor or publisher, but I'm calling this a transformative fiction, which is such a breath of fresh air. So I love to read, and I read just about anything I can get my hands on. I do prefer science fiction. I indulge myself in the occasional young adult apocalyptic fiction. I think that's a generational thing that we sort of get into those. They are good, but I do indulge myself in some of those. And then, of course, if there's a great novel that comes my way, and then my reading for my own studies, transformative, it's definitely going to be more in the spiritual realm. So books on energy medicine, functional medicine. I read as a patient and a person who wants to be healed, as well as someone who works with folks one-on-one. This book was a breath of fresh air because it took me on the journey of a novel, the fiction part. So I got a little bit of escapism, which is why I like to read, to get a little break from my own reality and to enter someone else's. But then also I understood as I started the journey that I was taking a journey, so that I wanted to make sure with each chapter, along with the characters, that I got to have a look at my own life and see how this lesson reflected on me. So the chapters in the book take you through some really powerful lessons. My personal favorites that I found were places that once I read the chapter, got to get into what the characters experienced in the chapter. And then what really applied to where I am, there's a chapter on limiting beliefs. And I found that to be one of the most powerful chapters, because the characters, the leaders of this healing center, teach us about how to find those limiting beliefs and work with them, and then what to do with them. And that was really eye-opening. That is chapter 18, limiting beliefs, because limiting beliefs are powerful in that they are in the background. They're in your subconscious. So trying to even locate them is difficult because as limiting beliefs, they are almost like the wallpaper of your house. They're there so much all the time, you forget they're there. But then once you focus and shine an eye on them and you realize, I don't like that wallpaper, I need to change that. So the chapter on limiting beliefs, I found to be very inspirational. And that was a place I actually spent several days. And I went back through the chapters on limiting beliefs, and then kept working with that with myself, because I uncovered, much like the characters in the book, where limiting beliefs were showing up. As a chapter on gratitude, that was one of the easiest to apply on a daily basis. We know that gratitude is important, but the way it's presented to us in this novel really helps you to understand how you're going to do this in real time, like being in the world where you don't always feel grateful because you're stressed and you're pressured, and you're going to be in other surroundings where people are being the opposite of grateful. And a key fact, and I may have mentioned this, but in this book, there's going to be blank pages that if you choose to, you can journal along with the characters. My advice, if you do take this journey on the Orchid, is I like that they included these blank spaces. I also like to journal, so I tend to grab a small journal that I'm going to devote to whatever I'm being blessed to teach. So if I pick up a book and I know this is going to be something on energy medicine, I know it's something I'm going to be learning, I like to have a journal devoted just for that. So you might want to have a small journal that you keep with you as you read the book, and take notes, not just the notes on what you're guided to learn. This book also introduces you to many healing modalities. It's a really good way to sort of expose yourself to, if you're on your spiritual journey, what tools might resonate with you. Because they journal, they meditate, they use tarot, they use, do they use chanting? I believe they use chanting, they use music, they use dancing. So this is a really nice exploration, like you're going to a retreat, spending a lot less money than going to a retreat, that you could start to explore if some of these healing modalities may be something that you would want to introduce into your life. I know for me, for instance, there's passages on dancing, and I found myself wanting to dance more and wanting to move more. It's just very good for me. That's always good. Get the cardiovascular system moving and get those mitochondria working. So what I would have liked to see more in the book, it's definitely a goddess-driven, female-driven, matriarchal, powered, feminine empowerment book. So I do love that. And I think for women, that's always a safe space that we need, that women or anyone that identifies with, the female gender. So whether you were born female or your gender evolved over the years, having that safe space of the feminine energy is very good. I don't know if Rocio and Angel were planning on doing any more books, but I would love to see a version of this for male gendered people. Because although I love the tone of this, one thing that I will tell my friends and family and some of my circles, that sometimes I feel that the modern world leans on women to do the spiritual work that all of us need to do. And while women can do it because we are mothers, we are daughters, we are aunts, we we carry the energy of creation inside of us. This evolution of pulling us all ahead, that load could be lightened if men would also be as curious. And I believe they are. Let me qualify that. I do believe that men, male gendered people are open to this kind of progress. And I know they are. I have close friends that are, colleagues that are. So I would like to see a version of this where men somehow were included, because it was a wonderful safe space for women. But part of me just kind of kept longing to know that there's a male version of this where the men are also doing the same kind of a work and reflection. Although the women that start this journey are leaving it much stronger and clearer, and they take us on the journey with us. So we are blessed with that. But I would just like to know that men were doing the same, that all of the transformational weight isn't always just on women. So do I recommend reading the book? Yes, I recommend reading the book with intention. I recommend reading the book when you are feeling ready to do a deep dive. So if you're not in a space of deeply looking at yourself, really questioning yourself, being ready to take an authentic look at your role in your life, you may not want to start this book. However, if you're not sure, I would say start it, but take your time with each chapter, and even take several days on each chapter and journal and reflect. And I feel that's the way to get the most out of this book. That's what I did. It took me several weeks to finish the book, but it felt like I was taken along for this spiritual quest and got to dive deep into myself. And although their stories, some apply to me, some not quite a lived experience that I had, but I absolutely could identify with the emotional challenges that these characters had. So I highly recommend reading this book. I recommend getting a copy. In your show notes, I'll put a link. I recommend getting the print copy so you get the full experience. And when the time is right for you, pick up your copy, start the journey. Even better, I would love to hear from listeners, if you do get your copy, what happened with you. And even a fun project, maybe some of us could start a little bit of a book club to discuss this book and what we experienced. So thank you so much for listening. I know this is a longer episode, but I wanted to make sure to get my review. Personal invitation, this podcast episode featured these really accomplished authors, and really was a blessing to bring them on and bring their energy on. If you are an author and you would like to discuss and share your book with my community, in your show notes, you should see a few ways to contact me, including email, including my social media. And if you will share a copy of your book with me, I would be very happy to bring you on, discuss the book. I would love to have a copy before I interview you, which would be fantastic. But this process with them, reading the book, reflecting on it, was just lovely. And I'd love to share your book with my community. And who knows, maybe we'll get a book club going and we can do a deeper dive on some of this really awesome content, these awesome books that are out there. Okay, listeners, thank you so much. Don't forget show notes for the links. Don't forget to share with the people you love. Leave me a review. I'd love a review. I could see that so many people are listening, but if you could review on the platform you're listening on, that really helps us in the multiverse, universe, interwebs, webs, all of those things. Okay, thanks so much. See you next time. Thank you so much for joining during this episode of the Art of Healing podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please leave a review. Also, you can check your show notes to find out how to get a copy of this and future episodes emailed directly to your inbox, available to listen to anytime. Finally, if you have questions or wish to connect to me, check your show notes to find out how we can get connected and find out how I can be of service to you.